It's time now for Tuesday with Thompson, a special edition, man. We got him live at the bank, and allegedly, PT, you got to clarify this for me. Allegedly, he's in the dugout. I think he's posing as Charlie Manuel. I don't know what exactly is going on. PT,
no,
fill me in.
That's not true. That's not true. There's only one Charlie Fuqua, and I am not him. I'm sitting down there. The Phillies are done their batting practice, so they were 425 to 525. Pirates are on the field right now going through their hacks. And then we got a little ball game tonight. We got Drew Smiley up against Stephen Brault, couple of lefties.
PT, what are your thoughts on third baseman Sean Rodriguez?
That was not a bad Dan Baker impression. And by the way, we send our thoughts out to Dan. He's had some health issues. And Scott Palmer's been doing a lot of the PA announcing. So we hope New Jersey guy Dan Baker gets better real soon and gets back behind the mic. Here's my thoughts on this. The guy goes and wins the game last night. And then I just feel like he might have underestimated the fan base. He is starting tonight, Ryan, at third base.
Well, that was part of my impression was, one, what were your thoughts in general on everything last night involving Rodriguez? And then two, Kapler turns right around today and pencils him in the starting lineup.
Well, and that's because, Scotty Jetpacks has some health issues going on himself right now, so they had to do a little reconfiguring. But I look at it like this. Like when I was a kid, I distinctly remember Mike Schmidt saying something about the fans or something, and then to start the season off, he wore like a clown wig out to third base. Was kind of his nonverbal way of saying, like, okay, fan base, I hear you. I'm not saying that Sean Rodriguez is going to do something like that tonight, but certainly if the fans want to voice their opinion, they'll be real close to him right there at third to tell them what they think.
Will they be booing him tonight?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Right.
You can't call out this fan base. It's a non-winning argument. There is no winner in that scenario. And I heard you and Moshe talking about, like, Moshe says he never boos. There is a part, like when you do what we do, where you stay even keel. You can't cheer in the press box. You don't go crazy. And it's funny because I thought there was a period of time where I'd sort of beaten out the fan from me. And then some things have happened small-wise, like I was at the Phillies game earlier this season when Maikel Franco hit a walk-off home run to win it against the Nationals in a game like where they basically snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. So I looked at that, and I was jumping up and down like a 12-year-old, like they just won the World Series. And my girlfriend's son was like, I've never seen you like that. And I thought, well, I'm not in a press box. I can behave however I want. So, I've booed people before, specifically and definitely at the Eagles games when the Eagles have come out, and put a pathetic effort out. That is, Jeff hit the nail on the head. Look, a boo is a non-cursing, non-racial, non-stereotypical. It's just a universal sound to signal your displeasure. And I have no problem with it, and I think fans should be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I added to it as well. I was like, listen, the fans, that's their way of communicating to the players. The fans aren't sitting down with any player and saying, hey, man, you're really struggling. I'm upset, this and that. I have season tickets, or, we want the team to do well, blah, 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 whatever it may be. The boo is all the fans really got.
And what's funny is now, the other part of the story, though, is the Philadelphia fan. And I was sitting with Scott Lauber a minute or two ago here from the Inquirer, right?
Yeah.
Writer for the Inquirer. And he's covered this team. First, he covered them from like 2006 to 10, and then he went up to Boston for a while and covered the Red Sox for the Herald up there. And then he worked for ESPN for a while. He's now back covering the Phillies. And he said a really good point. He said to me, there's very few cities where the fan is a character in the play. Like the Philadelphia fan is a character in the story, and so the guys as beat writers in Boston, if Mookie Betts has a bad game, the guys from the Herald and the Globe and Nesson and NECN, they're not going into the Red Sox clubhouse and say, hey, the fans are really getting on you there in the seventh inning. Did you hear that? They don't. That's not a question that gets asked. But in Philadelphia, it gets asked because, the fan is a story, is a big character in the story.
That is so well said, PT. I mean, that is by Scott Lauber. That is one of the best descriptions of the fan base in Philadelphia, honestly, I've ever heard. Like, I think that's perfect, because that's what Mosher and I were talking about earlier in the show, is just like, why is this such a thing here? They boo in New York. They boo in Boston. They boo in L.A. with the Lakers. They boo anywhere when a team isn't doing well. But for whatever reason, the microscope is on Philadelphia, it seems, every time there's a booing situation.
Well, and so give Scott some credit for his line too. I mean, it was definitely Lauber, but I couldn't agree more. And then that just makes me think too, again, going back to Schmitty, because I grew up in the Mike Schmidt era, and he got booed mercilessly, all the time. And the nasty boos, when beers were only $1 and people were more inebriated, right? So Schmitty had a line, and I'm going to probably butcher it, but I'll try my best. It was something about Philadelphia, the only place where you can experience the thrill of victory and the agony of reading about it the next day. Even when you win, they're going to rip you,
Absolutely. Do you think it's interesting to me that Rodriguez, he tried to spin it a little bit, I guess, when defending or attempting to defend Hoskins. And it's just interesting to me that I think Rodriguez opened up the door a little bit to admit, once again, not that this is anything new, but admit a little bit like, hey, we hear everything you're saying. We hear everything and see everything you're tweeting. And, this affects us. There isn't a panic room in the Phillies clubhouse.
Say we're human beings, too.
Right.
And, if you go back to Ryan Howard had his retirement ceremony on a Sunday here, again, I have to thank my father. He's got the Sunday plan. So he says, you want to go? I say, yeah, sure, Dad, I'll join you for a baseball game. So it was the Ryan Howard retirement ceremony. And in his speech here at Citizens Bank Park, Ryan Howard said, and hey, fans, these guys down here are trying really hard. Don't boo them. He said it in his speech. That's Ryan Howard trying to tell the fan base, don't get down on these guys. Give them a chance, because who would understand more about the boos than Ryan Howard?
And it's almost like that's part of the problem. And I'm not attacking Ryan Howard by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just kind of what Scott Lauber said. The media is asking questions. The narrative is already out there on a national level that you come play for Philadelphia, they're going to boo you even if you're in the World Series or you won a championship, or regardless of the situation, Philly's going to boo you, and it's a tough place to play. And Ryan Howard comes out and says that the media is asking questions. So guys like Sean Rodriguez, I feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot with that type of mindset, trying to go play that day to day.
Yeah, I don't think he did himself any favors. And one of the things Scott Lauber and I talked about as well, I said to him, boy, this organization, they have so many people that they could call on, whether it's a John Kruk or whether it's a Mike Schmidt or whether it's even like a Ricky Vitalico, who's not with the Phillies organization but understands Philly fans really well. They have so many guys that as part of the spring training speech could get everybody in the room together and say, listen, men, your goal is to make it to the big leagues. Everybody here wants to be on that field for the home opener at Citizens Bank Park on such and such a date. But by the way, should you be fortunate enough to get there, let us give you a little discussion about what Philly fans are all about. They want you to try hard. They want you to run hard. They're going to boo you if they don't see effort. And for God's sakes, don't try to call them out because they feel like they're good fans and loyal fans and passionate fans, and you're picking a fight you can't win. Oh, that's all you got to do.
Right. All right, PT, let's transition to the game tonight a little bit. 1, how's the atmosphere? 2, are you going to get yourself a hot dog or a cheesesteak? And 3, we have Smiley on the mound. He's 2-6 with basically a 7 ERA. Last time he took on Pittsburgh, though, he did pitch 6 innings of 1-run ball in July. So, talk about your night and what do you expect from the Phillies?
Well, we got lefty versus lefty, right? So Smiley, like you said, 2-6, an ERA of almost 7. Stephen Brault, an ERA of 3.98.
Yeah.
The one thing Mike and I talked about, we got here about 4 o'clock, and when we walked in, there was a lefty batting practice pitcher for the Phillies, from the Phillies batting practice, very, very early. And that was the narrative. Can you believe that until about a week or 2 ago, the Phillies didn't have anybody that could throw left-handed batting practice? I mean, if you're facing a lefty, you have to have a guy like that. So I don't know if that means they're going to hit the ball any better than normal because they have the guy now and they were able to see him early? I don't know about that. I know this. I know that, they're supposed to beat the teams they're supposed to beat. This is another one of those nights. We're up here. The lineup is very much the same. You've got Hoskins again leading off, JT Realmuto second, Harper third, Segura, Dickerson, Cesar Hernandez. There's Sean Rodriguez at third base because of the Scott Kingery injury. And then it's Adam Hazley and Drew Smiley. I mean, what do I predict? Who the heck knows? But I know that it's meatloaf and mashed in the press dining room. I predict that PT will get multiple plates of that.
Ma, the meatloaf.
Yeah, I don't know where she goes sometimes.
I never know what she's doing back there.
I want the meatloaf now, Ma.
Ma. All right, PT, any other news or notes you got? How was your ride up with MG? How many arguments did you guys have?
The lovely and talented Carly Lloyd is standing about 12 feet away from me, getting ready to get interviewed for television.
There you go. She's throwing out the first pitch, right?
She is throwing out the first pitch, so she's doing some TV interviews prior to that.
Very
Looks
cool.
Great. U.S. women's national team going to be across the street. The ride-up was fine. No tickets, no speeding. Gil was late, but we won't get into that.
Oh, man. We should have let off with that, but I digress. All right, PT, you're the man. You're the man. We appreciate it, as always. Tuesdays with Thompson, every Tuesday right here on the Sports Bash at 5:30. Enjoy the game, PT.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ryan. Take care,
all right, man.